I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time.
Hello and welcome to Women Awakening. I'm your host, Cynthia James, and I love what I do. I get to introduce you to fabulous women, women that inspire me, women that are doing extraordinary things in the world, women that are way showers, that show us that we all live in a field of possibility and potentiality, and we can step into the fullness of who we are should we choose to do that. And so I do these every week. I interview a new woman. So please come back and subscribe. We're on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Spreaker, Amazon. We're on video, YouTube. You can also go to cynthiajames.net. You can sign up for my monthly newsletter, join my community, or get gifts. And you can also go to YouTube and see my TEDx talk called Past Does Not Define Us. So my guest today is someone new to me, and I'm very excited to introduce you to her. Her name is Alison Jacobson, and she's known as the Midlife Maverick. She's a testament to resilience, having triumphed over grief and obstacles, including the death of her baby to SIDS, financial devastation after a divorce, and managing the role of caregiver for her son with intellectual disabilities and her husband with primary progressive MS. Her journey includes successfully starting and selling a business at 28, conquering the New York City Marathon at 57, proving it's never too late for transformation. And as a serial entrepreneur, a successful coach, and a speaker, she empowers women in midlife to rediscover their goals, rebuild confidence, amplify joy, and unlock the abundance they deserve. Alison, thank you so much for being here.
Cynthia, thank you so much. I have to say, though, I am not the midwife maverick. I'm the midlife maverick.
Oh, hello. Did I say midwife? I guess I'm birthing babies and it's not. Oh, hello. Thank you. So sorry.
That's okay, because I had midwives with all of my babies. So
Did you?
Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah. And considering that there's a percentage of my audience that is in midlife, this is a big deal. So I want to ask you how you grew up. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a small town just north of New York City. It was modern suburbia. I am an only child. I was a very blue-collar family in the midst of pretty high affluence. And I didn't know any better. My family just was so happy together that wealth or the lack of wealth never entered into my mind. It was just joy.
Well, that's awesome. And so, why did you leave that place? How did you leave that place?
Very interesting. So I had dreams of being an actress. I was a theater major in college, and then I realized, I don't really want to be an out-of-work actress. And that is actually the first time, though, that I think I experienced limiting beliefs. But I was the practical side of me. So I changed into production and I started working at Good Morning America. And then I live on the East Coast and I hated the East Coast weather. So I moved out to Los Angeles to pursue my career. And I always say that I was born on the wrong coast. I am really an LA person at heart because I just love the spirituality. I love the environment. I love the warmth. And that's where I started my public relations firm, working for entertainment industries, commercial directors, producers. And at 24, I started a company called Creative Exposure. I had 4 women working for me. I was bi-coastal. And 4 years later, I sold it to one of the world's largest PR firms. And at that point, I knew that I wanted to be around my family when I had kids. So I moved back east and started working with that company.
Wow. Well, okay. Before we go any further, did you know how to start a business?
No, not at all. Remember, I told you I was a theater major.
Right.
Not at all. But and Cynthia, this is actually what I talk about a lot with my clients. I think sometimes knowledge is dangerous because we have these ideas in our head that limit us because we've been told this. When we don't know any better, we just go for it. And sometimes we learn along the way. And it's that naivete that allows us to pursue our passions. And that's exactly what I did.
Well, yes, but there must have been some kind of innate faith in yourself that you could not only create it, but invite other people in to be your clients to the point that you could sell it. And when you got ready to think about selling it, what did you do?
I did not think about selling it. And this is how I so believe in law of attraction and manifestation, and the right opportunities come up. So I was working, I was very happy, I was building this business, and I interviewed a woman to come work for me. And she wasn't right for me, but she went on to work for the other PR firm that bought me. And she knew they were in an acquisition phase, and she mentioned me. And Cynthia, I'll never forget it. I was just about to get married, and I had come home to New York and had lunch with a friend and talked about where our businesses would go because he was an entrepreneur too. And I said, someday I'd love to get bought out. And he's like, Allie, that's great, but that never happens to people like us. And then 3 weeks later, it happened to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you didn't listen to him and and that you were open and available. Okay, so I want to talk about these obstacles that you've overcome. Because I'm sitting in front of you and I see the light in your face and I see the energy of joy that's transmitting from you. And yet you have navigated some extraordinary obstacles. I want to talk about that and I want to talk about what helped you get over them.
Well, so the first obstacle obviously was the death of my son. I was 30 years old and he died from sudden infant death syndrome. I was working for that PR firm in Manhattan. I had dropped him off at daycare. He was completely healthy. He was 3 months and 24 days. And I dropped him off at 8 in the morning. And at 10 in the morning, I got a call from the daycare provider who said, there's something wrong with Connor. He's not breathing. And honestly, Cynthia, I don't remember much after that. I must have started screaming because the next thing I know, there were so many people at my door looking at me. And my boss came in. And if you know anything about Manhattan and living outside Manhattan, most people commute on the train. And I knew I couldn't go home on the train. And so my boss got a car service and was taking me up to Connecticut to the hospital where he was. And all along, I just kept praying to God, bargaining with God, saying, take me, just let my baby be okay. My husband at the time was at the hospital and he didn't want me to know Connor had already died. And so he didn't take my calls. And I remember getting to the emergency room and my cousin was there, which I found very strange. And she mouthed to the woman at the desk, it's the mother. And I walked into a room and I saw what I thought was a window. And I assumed Connor was behind that window. And my husband was there. And all he said was, he's with God now. And I don't remember much of anything else. I must have fainted. And when I came to, I realized there were so many people. It was a little room. There was a firefighter, a big burly firefighter crying. There was my mother. There was my cousin. There were all these people there. And it was one of those defining moments because at that moment, I had nothing to live for. I really had nothing to live for. And I think that God protects you and your body protects you because for those immediate days afterwards, there are things I literally don't remember. Like I think you get a little bit of PTSD when you go through such a traumatic shock. So
Yes.
there are times I don't remember. And it's not something that leaves you now. Subsequently, and this is something you didn't know from my bio, I went on to sit on the board of directors of a nonprofit organization, which at that time was called SIDS Alliance. It is now First Candle. And they are the national nonprofit that addresses sudden unexpected infant death. It was the right thing to do. I stayed until I had 2 more kids, and then I moved on, and it was a volunteer position. But in 2016, full circle, I came back, and I am now executive director of that organization, along with everything else I do.
Okay. Okay. Anybody who's not looking at the screen, I just want you to know my heart is so full and I feel so much love and presence here and connection, I mean, because I've never walked through that myself, but to be present with someone who has makes me just want to love you more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I love so much is, so at First Candle, we not only address and educate about sudden unexpected death, but we deal with bereavement support. And every time I talk to a family, a young family now, I'm 57, before I start talking to them, I always say a little prayer to my angel and say, please, Connor, give me the right words to say to help these people heal. And what I think I give them is hope. They see who they can be, and they see how they can go along in their journey. And that is something I love to do.
Well, it's beautiful. Okay, I know I'm hopping around here, but you're 57 now, which means you just ran the marathon.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. So at First Candle, we are one of the charity partners for the New York City Marathon, and we have 25 bibs every year. And every year I'd go and we'd stand up in Harlem because it's a great place to watch the runners. And I'd get really excited and say, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been, but the energy at that marathon is just incredible. I mean, all of Manhattan comes out. It's this giant party and this wave of energy. And so 2 years ago, I said, when I'm 60, I'm going to run the marathon. Now, I've already been a coach, and I slapped myself and I said, that's baloney, Alison. That is putting something off. That is a mindset. I'm running it next year. And it was the 25th anniversary of Connor passing. And so I went home to my husband and I said, I'm going to run the New York City Marathon. Now, keep in mind, I have never run more than a mile in my life. Never. And so I came home and my husband said, oh, I don't know. And I said, game on. And so, yeah, that's all it took. And so my gym is the local YMCA, and I started on the treadmill, and I knew, and this is what I tell my clients, I announced to everybody I was running the marathon. That was going to hold me accountable. And I had so many people say, oh, what training program? What are you doing? Now, this goes back, Cynthia, to not having a lot of knowledge and making it better. I didn't know. And I said, I've got the Forrest Gump method. I just started running and I'm not going to stop.
Well, I love that. And one of the things that's in your bio is like, you talk about conquering adversity and defying self-doubt at any age. And so you just kept moving.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I do a lot of speaking engagements. And what I talk about is the life and entrepreneurial lessons I learned from running the New York City Marathon. And one of the examples I'll give is, especially for women, having imposter syndrome. I mean, here I was, and I was training in my hometown, and I would see, we were training through the fall and the spring, and I'd see all these people running by and their, gear and everything. And here I come, and I'm like, oh, those are real serious runners. Those are runners. And my husband looked at me and he's like, honey, you're now running 9 miles. You're a runner. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not like them. And that's how we think as women. We never realize the power we have, and we never step into that power. We close down. And so I finally had to start saying, I am a runner. And it felt so good.
Well, and yes, you are. And it's inspiring. I mean, because, anything's possible. So I want to know the 4-step process you have for unleashing your inner power. Can we talk about that? Because a lot of women I know who are in midlife are in transition.
Yes.
And so, and not necessarily knowing how to navigate that transition.
Boy, isn't that true? And, my baby just left for college. She's a freshman. And Cynthia, I can't tell you how many women come up to me and say, how are you? As if they're screaming. And I'm like, I'm great. But you realize so many women put their life on hold when they had kids, and they were so busy dealing with their kids and running around and being an awesome mom. And then all of a sudden, full stop, that first day their kids are off at college. And it's like, well, now who am I? Now what do I do? And maybe they were staying in relationships that weren't good. And now it's like, who's my buffer? And so that's exactly the type of women I work with, who are looking to leave their career that they never really liked and want to do something else, or find that new relationship, or end that relationship that's no longer good, or start a career. Maybe they have to. And so the 4 steps go back to my marathon. And the first one is courage. You know, it's so easy for all of us to stay where we are, to be comfortable. And it's remarkable how many women are willing to stay in a so-so ho-hum life because it's what they know. And change is scary, right? You're stepping out of that comfort zone, but you have to be willing to take that first baby step out of your comfort zone. And you can't think 26 miles, the marathon down. You have to think of that first mile. And that's the courage to take that first step. So courage is the first one. The second one is clarity. I can't tell you how many women will tell me what makes them upset, why they're upset. And then I say to them, well, how do you define happiness? What makes you happy? They can't answer. They're not sure. They've never taken the time to think, what's going to make me happy? And if you're not clear on your goal, how the heck are you going to reach your goal?
Exactly.
So you have to have that clarity of where you want to be. It's like with money too. I coach a lot on financial independence. It's not enough to say, I want $20,000. Well, why? What is that $20,000 going to bring you? Unless you understand clearly why you want that, you're never going to reach your goal. So number 2 is that clarity. The third is the confidence. So remember, I told you I came home and my husband said, oh, I don't know. And I was like, game on. We unfortunately have a lot of people, well-meaning sometimes, who are in our life who want us to stay where we are, right? Our kids who think, Mom, you know, you're too old for that, or maybe you want to slow down, or I don't know if that's good, or friends who don't want to see us change. When I went through my divorce, I lost a lot of friends because they liked where I was. Or maybe it's our partner who doesn't want us to take a job because they like us being home at a certain time to do everything. So it takes a lot of confidence to stand in your power and say, this is what I'm going to do. It's leading with that intention of who I am. And that gets back to your great and powerful why. Why am I doing this? Look, there were many times I was running in the rain. I was sore. My great and powerful why was I was doing this for Connor. I was doing this for my son. What is your great and powerful why? Because you are going to have a lot of times, and I'm sure you know this as an entrepreneur, people think entrepreneurs, we sit around, we work when we want to. It's hard. It's really hard. And we are going to have some times where we make bonehead mistakes or where something goes wrong. And if you don't have that powerful why, you're going to stop. And so that's so important. So that's number 3. And the 4th is consistency. Just that tenacity to keep going no matter what. Just putting one step in front of the other. Let me tell you, it was not easy at mile 16. For those of your listeners who live in New York City, mile 16 is going over the Queensboro Bridge. Now, up until then, you're running through Brooklyn. You've got crowds cheering you on. You've got bands at every mile. At the Queensboro Bridge, it's silent. No one's there. And it's just your mind playing tricks on you.
Wow.
And you've got to decide you're going to just put one foot in front of the other. When I got into Central Park, there's volunteers sitting there and I'm like, am I almost there? And they're like, yeah, as they're shaking their head, no. And I'm like, oh my gosh, one foot in front of the other. You're going to have setbacks. Just keep going. My other daughter is an exercise science major and she's like, Mom, can you do one push-up? Do one push-up. You don't have to run the marathon the first day. Just keep going towards your dreams, keep going towards that job, keep going towards that fabulous relationship, keep going towards being that woman you should be in midlife.
Ugh.
And that's the 4 C's.
Okay, everybody. Courage, clarity, confidence, and consistency. Pay attention here. This is really great. All right. Well, I need to know. Here you are. I mean, you're a person with ambition and you're a person who clearly is driven on certain levels, right? I want to know how you're managing the up leveling of your business while you're caring as a caregiver.
Yeah.
How are you managing that and finding any kind of harmony in your life?
Well, it's interesting. And again, I think you're a spiritual person, as am I. And so when I met my husband, we met on Match. It was a success. He did not have primary progressive MS yet. He had been a pro athlete. He was only diagnosed with primary progressive MS 4 weeks after we were married. And he went from walking on a cane to being in a power chair full time in about 3 years.
Wow.
My son, who's 25, my golden son, he has severe intellectual disabilities. So he is a strong young man who is just the kindest, sweetest, but he's never going to necessarily, he won't drive a car. He's not going to ever live on his own. He's going to be dependent. And so, Cynthia, I truly believe in all my heart that God brought my husband, Greg, into my life because Greg has the physical disability. My son has the intellectual disability, and they help each other like nobody's business. They have become a team. And that is how I keep moving forward because my family works like a finely honed machine. My husband's power chair is the driver's seat in the car. He has hand controls, so he drives places. He actually works with military vet and stroke victims, teaching them golf now. So he has his purpose as well. So we have our life together, our lives apart. I'm leaving Tuesday to go to Italy for a speaking engagement. I was in New Orleans last week for a speaking engagement. I cook dinners. They are in the freezer. Spencer knows how to make them. Greg talks him through it. And my mother lives with us, so she's there too, and she's very spry. And so I've got a team. And even before that, I think it's very important for children to be empowered. And my son, it was never going to be a mathematician or go to college, but I needed him to know the life skills. I needed him to know how to pump gas. I needed him to know how to go shopping. And because my husband couldn't do it, Spencer knows how to mow the lawn. Spencer helps me snowblow. He knows all of those things. My girls from a young age, my little girls from first grade made their own lunches. I didn't do anything. And so we all came together and they felt great because they were empowered. They were helping. And so that's how I do it with the support and love of my family.
I love that. I mean, talk about team building. I mean, you know, in a container of love. I mean, I just think that that's extraordinary. Well, I guess I want to ask you, um, what is it in you that propels you? What's your powerful why?
My powerful why. So, when you look at sudden unexpected infant death, I have two powerful whys now. Unfortunately, the rates of disparity among babies who die is very high, and that is due to structural racism. 3 times more Black babies die than white babies. And there is structural racism, there's social determinants of health, there's cultural barriers. And as you probably know, the rate of maternal mortality in this country is horrible. Girls now have more chance of dying giving birth than our mothers did. That's unacceptable. And so one of my powerful whys is lifting up the voices of women around the country to tell their true stories and to find equality for all women through birth justice and reproductive justice. My other powerful why is for women in midlife who have been marginalized, who have not been allowed to take up space, to grow into being the authentic goddesses they're meant to be. They have been shrunk down due to society, due to limiting beliefs that have been with them since they were young, due to just all sorts of patriarchy. And my powerful why for both is making women stronger, helping them to embrace who they are and become amazing women. And I can tell you this, I wake up every day loving what I do. Sure, are there times when I do things in my job that I don't love? Yes, but that's why I also have people working with me. They are fabulous at doing bookkeeping and finance and things like that that I don't love, so that I can get out and speak to women and connect with women and do what I love. And that's what keeps me going.
Well, that's beautiful. And ladies, I hope you're listening. In fact, I hope you're taking notes because yes, you know, being in love with something that ignites your soul and feels like you are on purpose is fuel. It's fuel for the soul. How do people find you?
So I have a special link just for your listeners. It's alison-jacobson.com/awakening. There's a free gift on there, 5 steps to release fear and live boldly, which you can get. I also have on there 7 steps to unshakable self-confidence, which is a mini course self-study. And I have a link to my book, which is on Amazon, Daily Inspirations for Midlife Women, a guide to peace, joy, confidence, and abundance. And you can find me on Instagram at Alison Jacobson.
Well, that is beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I ask the same last question of every guest. This show is called Women Awakening. What do you think is the most important thing about women awakening on the planet in this moment?
We all need to awaken. We need to vote. We need to step into our power. We need to say it is not acceptable how women are being marginalized. We need to come together because women can change this world, and we're the only ones that can.
Well, thank you. I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for being here, Allison. I am so grateful to know you and to travel this path with you.
Thank you. I absolutely am honored to be on your show.
Thank you. Okay, ladies, I say the same thing every week in a different form. This is the time. This is the time for you to be courageous. This is the time for you to connect to your passion points. This is the time for you to discover what lights you up and go into it full throttle, because it will ignite you and it will inspire you and it will inspire others. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful. I look forward to being with you next time. Much love.